She watched them bury her while she was still alive. And the man crying at her funeral is the same man who destroyed her life and thought she would never return. Lara had always believed her life was simple and safe. She lived in a small, neat house with her husband, Ton. Every morning, she woke up early, made breakfast, and watched him get ready for work. He always smiled, kissed her forehead, and said, "I'll be back soon." For a long time, she trusted that smile. But slowly, things began to feel wrong. Ton started coming home late. At first, he said it was extra work. Then it became business trips. Then he stopped explaining at all. Lara tried to ignore the fear in her chest, but it grew bigger each day. One night, while cleaning, she found a second phone hidden under his clothes in the wardrobe. Her hands shook as she held it. The phone was locked, but messages kept lighting up the screen. Names she didn't know. Short, serious text. Words like delivery, meeting, and don't make mistakes. Her heart beat fast. This was not normal. She waited until he slept that night. Carefully, she used his finger to unlock the phone. What she saw made her feel cold. There were pictures. Not of another woman, but of money. Big stacks of it. There were also messages that sounded dangerous. Some talked about moving goods quietly. Some talked about people being handled if they caused trouble. Lara dropped the phone on the bed. Her husband was not the man she thought he was. The next day, she watched him closely. Every move he made now felt strange. Every smile looked fake. She wanted to ask him, but something inside her warned her to stay quiet. That evening, she made a choice. She would find out the truth. She followed him. He didn't go to any office. Instead, he drove to a quiet area far from the city. Lara stayed far behind, hiding as best as she could. She saw him meet two men. They spoke quickly and exchanged a bag. Lara tried to take a picture, but her hand slipped. A small sound came from her phone. One of the men turned. "Who is there?" he asked. Lara froze. Ton turned too. Their eyes met. In that moment, Lara knew one thing: her life would never be the same again. She ran as fast as she could. Her legs felt weak, but fear pushed her forward. She didn't look back at first. She just ran. But then she heard footsteps behind her. They were chasing her. Her breath became heavy. Her chest hurt. She turned into a narrow path and hid behind a wall, trying to stay quiet. The footsteps passed. She covered her mouth to stop herself from crying. After some time, everything went silent. Lara stayed there for a long time before moving again. Her hands were shaking badly. Her mind was full of questions. Why would Ton do this? What kind of life had he been living behind her back? She knew she couldn't go home. Not anymore. That night, she went to her friend Amoka's place. When Amoka opened the door and saw Lara's face, she knew something was very wrong. "What happened?" Amoka asked softly. Lara stepped inside and broke down. She told her everything: the phone, the messages, the men, and how Ton saw her. Amoka's face turned serious. "You're not safe," she said. "If he saw you, he will come for you." Lara felt a chill. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. Amoka thought for a moment, then said, "You have to disappear. At least for now." Lara's eyes widened. "Disappear?" "Yes. You need to stay alive first. Then we can think of what to do next." That night, Lara couldn't sleep. Her whole life had changed in one day. The man she loved was now someone she feared. Early the next morning, Amoka helped her pack a small bag. No phone. No contact. Nothing that could be traced. Before leaving, Lara looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were red. Her face looked tired. "I don't even know who I am anymore," she said quietly. Amoka held her hand. "You're someone who found the truth. That's not weakness. Lara nodded slowly. Then she left. No one saw her go. No one knew where she went. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Back home, people began to ask questions. Ton acted worried. He told everyone his wife was missing. He reported to the police. He played his role well. But deep down, he knew. Lara had seen too much. And somewhere, hidden and silent, Lara was still alive, waiting, watching, and planning her next move. Lara stayed hidden in a small room at the back of an old building in another town. The room was quiet and plain. There was a small bed, a chair, and one window that faced a busy road. She kept the curtain closed most of the time. She didn't want anyone to notice her. At first, every sound made her jump. A car stopping outside, footsteps in the hallway, even a knock on another door, everything felt like danger. She barely slept. When she did, she woke up suddenly, breathing fast. Amoka visited her once every few days. She brought food, water, and news. People are talking, Amoka said one day. They say you are missing. Some think you ran away. Some think something bad happened. Lara sat quietly, holding a cup of tea. And turned, she asked. Amoka sighed. He's acting like a broken man. He cries in public. He tells everyone he misses you. Lara's hands tightened around the cup. He's lying. I know, Amoka said softly. But others don't. That night, Lara couldn't stop thinking. She knew Ton was dangerous. But she also knew that hiding forever was not a real answer. If she stayed silent, he would continue whatever he was doing. More people could get hurt. I need proof, Lara said the next time Amoka came. Proof. Amoka looked worried. Lara, that's risky. I already saw enough to know the truth, Lara replied. But knowing is not enough. If I want to stop him, I need something strong. Something no one can deny. Amoka shook her head slowly. If he finds you again. He won't, Lara said, though her voice was not fully steady. I'll be careful. After thinking for a long time, they made a plan. Amoka would keep watching Ton from a distance. She would follow him when she could and take note of where he went. Lara would stay hidden and wait for the right moment. Days passed. Then one evening, Amoka rushed into the room. I found something, she said quickly. Lara stood up. What is it? There's a warehouse, Amoka explained. He goes there often at night. Not alone. Always with those same men. Lara's heart started to race. That must be it. No, Amoka said firmly. You are not going there. Lara stepped closer. I have to. Amoka grabbed her arm. This is not a movie, Lara. These are dangerous people. I know, Lara said quietly. But if I don't do this, I will keep hiding forever. And he will keep pretending to be a good man. There was silence. Amoka looked into Lara's eyes and saw something new, fear, yes, but also courage. Finally, she sighed. Then we do it together. Carefully. 2 nights later, they went. They stayed far from the warehouse, hiding behind an old fence. The place was large and quiet, with only a few lights on. A truck arrived. Men stepped out. Ton was there too. Lara's hands shook as she held a small camera. Stay low, Amoka whispered. They watched as bags were moved from the truck into the building. Lara zoomed in with the camera. She took pictures. Clear ones. Then something happened. One of the men turned suddenly. Did you hear that? He asked. Lara froze. Amoka slowly pulled her down. They stayed still, not moving at all. After a few seconds, the man shook his head. It's nothing. Lara let out a slow breath. They waited a little longer, then quietly left. Back in the room, Lara looked at the pictures. Her hands were still shaking, but her eyes were strong. This is just the beginning, she said. Amoka nodded. Yes. But we have to be smarter. One mistake, and it's over. Lara looked out the window. For months, she had been running. Now, she was ready to fight back, slowly, carefully, and with the truth on her side. The next few days were tense. Lara looked at the pictures again and again. They showed Ton clearly. His face. The men. The bags. But something was missing. It's not enough, Lara said quietly. Amoka frowned. What do you mean? We have pictures. That's something. Yes, Lara replied, but people can still doubt it. They can say it's just business. They can say we don't understand what we saw. Amoka crossed her arms. So what do you want? Lara took a deep breath. I need to know exactly what they are doing. I need to hear them. I need something stronger. Amoka shook her head immediately. No. That's too dangerous. Lara stepped closer. Listen to me. If I stop now, he wins. He will keep lying. Everyone will believe him. And I will always be the woman who disappeared for no reason. Amoka stayed quiet for a moment. Then she said softly, so what's your plan? Lara pointed at the camera. We go back. But this time, we get closer. Amoka looked at her like she was about to argue again. But she stopped. She knew Lara had already decided. 2 nights later, they returned to the warehouse. This time, they wore dark clothes. They moved slowly, staying close to walls and shadows of buildings nearby. Lara's heart was beating so loudly, she was sure someone would hear it. They found a small side window. It was not fully closed. Lara carefully pushed it open just a little. Voices came from inside. She held her breath and lifted the small recorder Amoka had given her. Inside, Ton was speaking. We move everything tomorrow night, he said. No mistakes this time. Last week was too close. Another man replied, and the woman. Lara's body went cold. Ton's voice changed. It became hard. She saw something. But she ran. If she shows up again, we deal with it. Lara felt tears in her eyes, but she stayed still. She won't come back, one man said. People like her don't come back. Ton gave a short laugh. Good. Because next time, I won't miss. Lara almost dropped the recorder. Amoka touched her arm gently, reminding her to stay calm. They stayed for a few more seconds, recording everything. Then they slowly moved away. They didn't stop walking until they were far from the warehouse. Back in the room, Lara sat down heavily. She pressed the recorder and listened again. Her hands were shaking, but this time it was not just fear. It was anger. He was ready to hurt me, she whispered. Amoka nodded sadly. Yes. Lara wiped her tears. I loved him. I trusted him. I know, Amoka said softly. Lara looked up. Her eyes were no longer weak. They think I'm gone. They think I'm scared. Amoka watched her carefully. And are you? Lara shook her head slowly. No, she said. Not anymore. At the same time, back in the city, things were changing. Ton stood in front of a group of people at his house. Family members, neighbors, and friends filled the room. Some were crying. A framed picture of Lara sat on a table. Ton wiped his eyes and spoke in a low voice. We've searched everywhere. The police have tried. But there is nothing. He paused, acting like it was hard to continue. I think it's time we accept the truth. A quiet sob came from the crowd. She's gone, he said. Lara's mother cried loudly. Others tried to comfort her. Ton closed his eyes like a man in pain. We should hold a funeral. She deserves peace. Everyone nodded slowly. No one questioned him. No one knew the truth. The date was set. A funeral for a woman who was still alive. Back in the small room, Amoka looked at Lara carefully. "They are planning your funeral," she said. Lara didn't move for a moment. Then she asked, "When?" "In a few days." Lara stood up slowly. Her heart was heavy, but her face was calm. "Good," she said. Amoka blinked. "Good." Lara nodded. "They think they buried me already," she said quietly. "So they won't expect me to show up." Amoka's eyes widened. "Lara, what are you thinking?" Lara looked straight ahead. "I'm going to attend my own funeral." Amoka stared at her in shock. "That's too risky," she said quickly. "What if he sees you?" Lara picked up the recorder and the camera. "He will," she said. There was silence. "And when he does," Lara continued, "he won't be ready for what comes next." Amoka took a slow breath. Everything was about to change. The day of the funeral was coming. And for the first time in months, Lara was not hiding. She was preparing to face the man who destroyed her life. The morning of the funeral came slowly. Lara barely slept the night before. She sat by the window, watching the sky turn from dark to light. Her hands were cold, but her mind was clear. "This is it," she said quietly. Amoka stood beside her. "We can still stop this. You don't have to go." Lara shook her head. "No. If I don't go now, I may never get another chance." Amoka sighed. "Then we do it carefully." They had already prepared everything. Lara wore simple, dark clothes. She covered her hair with a scarf and put on large glasses. Her face looked different, tired, older, and hard to recognize. "Stay behind the crowd," Amoka reminded her. "Don't go too close." Lara nodded. "I know." They traveled separately to the funeral. The place was full of people. Family members, friends, and neighbors gathered quietly. Some cried softly. Others spoke in low voices. Lara stood far away at first, watching. Her chest tightened when she saw her mother. The older woman looked weak and broken, supported by others. Lara's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't move. "I'm sorry, Mama," she whispered under her breath. Then she saw Ton. He stood in front, dressed in black, his head lowered like a man full of pain. People walked up to him, shaking his hand, telling him to be strong. Lara felt something heavy in her chest. "He's lying to all of them," she said quietly. Amoka, standing a few steps away, nodded slightly. The ceremony began. A man stood up and spoke about Lara's life. He talked about her kindness, her smile, and how much she was loved. Every word cut deep. Lara held her hands tightly together to stop herself from crying out. Then Ton was called to speak. He stepped forward slowly. "My wife," he began, his voice shaking. Lara looked at him closely. "I loved her," he said. "I don't know what happened. I wish I could have protected her." Some people in the crowd began to cry. Lara felt anger rise inside her. "You could have protected me," she whispered. "But you chose not to." Ton continued, "If she can hear me, I want her to know that I will always love her." That was enough. Lara took a step forward. Amoka noticed immediately. "Lara, wait." But Lara kept moving. One step. Then another. The crowd was focused on Ton, so no one noticed her at first. Her heart beat fast, but she didn't stop. Finally, she spoke. "Stop lying." The voice was not loud, but it was clear. The room went silent. Ton froze. Slowly, he turned. Lara removed her glasses. Gasps filled the air. Some people stepped back in shock. Others stared, unable to speak. Her mother looked up and screamed her name. "Lara." Ton's face lost all color. "You," he whispered. Lara walked forward, her eyes locked on his. "Yes," she said. "I'm alive." Confusion spread through the crowd. People began to talk at once. How is this possible? Is this real? What's going on? Ton tried to speak. Lara. I thought you were dead. Lara finished for him. That's what you wanted them to believe. Ton shook his head quickly. No, that's not true. Lara raised her hand. Don't, she said firmly. Her voice was calm, but strong. You lied to everyone here, she continued. You lied to me. And today, I'm going to tell the truth. Amoka stepped forward from the side, holding the recorder. Lara looked at the crowd. You all deserve to know who he really is. Ton took a step back. You don't know what you're saying. Lara looked straight at him. I know everything. There was silence again. For the first time, Ton looked afraid. And everyone in the room could see it. Lara turned to Amoka. Play it, she said. Amoka pressed the button. Ton's voice filled the room. Clear. Cold. Dangerous. Every word he had spoken at the warehouse echoed through the space. The crowd listened. And everything began to fall apart. The recording ended. For a moment, no one moved. The room felt heavy, like the air had stopped. People looked at each other, confused and shocked. Then slowly, the meaning of the word sank in. A man stepped back. That was his voice. Another person whispered, he said he would hurt her. Lara's mother held her chest, shaking. What is this? What is happening? Lara turned to face her, her eyes soft but serious. Mama, I didn't run away. I found out the truth, and I had to hide to stay alive. Tears ran down her mother's face. My child. Ton suddenly raised his voice. This is a lie. Everyone turned to him. He pointed at Lara. She is trying to destroy me. That recording is fake. Lara didn't shout. She didn't rush. She just looked at him calmly. Then explain the pictures, she said. Amoka stepped forward again and showed the images from the warehouse. Clear images of Ton, the men, and the bags. More voices filled the room. I've seen that place before. Why would he be there at night? This is not normal. Ton's breathing became heavy. He looked around, searching for support, but no one stepped forward. You don't understand, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. This is business. You are all making it something else. Lara shook her head slowly. Business does not sound like that, she said. Business does not include threats. Ton's face hardened. You should have stayed gone. The words slipped out before he could stop them. The room went silent again. Lara's eyes did not move from his face. So you admit it? Ton didn't answer. But the damage was already done. Someone near the door spoke quickly. Call the police. Another person nodded. Yes. Right now. Ton looked toward the exit. For a second, it seemed like he might run. But two men stepped in front of him. You're not going anywhere, one of them said firmly. Minutes later, the police arrived. They listened carefully as Lara and Amoka explained everything. They took the recorder, the pictures, and asked questions. Ton tried to speak, but his words were weak now. He was no longer in control. As the police led him away, he looked back at Lara. There was no kindness in his eyes anymore. Only anger. But Lara didn't look away. She stood strong. When he was gone, the room felt different. Quiet, but not heavy. People began to move again. Some came close to Lara, asking questions, still trying to understand. Others simply looked at her with respect. Her mother walked slowly toward her. For a second, they just looked at each other. Then her mother pulled her into a tight hug. I thought I lost you, she cried. Lara held her back just as tightly. I'm here now. Amoka stood nearby, watching with a small smile. Later that day, Lara sat outside, taking a deep breath of fresh air. The sun felt warm on her face. For months, she had been hiding. For months, she had been afraid. But now, the truth was out. And she was free. She looked at Amoka. "Thank you." Amoka smiled. "You did the hard part." Lara nodded slowly. "I almost stayed silent," she said. "I almost let fear win." "But you didn't," Amoka replied. Lara looked ahead, her eyes calm. "No," she said. "I didn't." Sometimes, the people we trust the most can hide the darkest truths. But no matter how painful the truth is, facing it is always better than living in a lie. Fear can make you run, stay quiet, and hide. But courage is not about having no fear, it is about doing what is right even when you are afraid. Lara chose to stand up, not just for herself, but for the truth. And in the end, the truth always finds a way to come out. Do not ignore the signs when something feels wrong. Ask questions. Protect yourself. And never be afraid to walk away from what is dangerous, even if it breaks your heart. Because your life, your safety, and your peace are more important than any relationship. And sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is to choose yourself. If this story adds value to you, please do well to give me a like, share, and comment on the video to share your thoughts. Most importantly, please support me by subscribing to this channel, turn on the notification button and follow for more interesting stories. Thanks for watching.